Hello and welcome back to Uncle Matt's Cookery Lessons. I was going to make an almond and cranberry tart to be very Christmassy, but guess what? All the supermarkets sold out of cranberries. But I thought I'll carry on anyway, and I'm going to do the classic pear and almond tart. So there'll be some poached pears in a stock syrup, a wonderful almond sponge inside a nice crispy short crust pastry shell. It's delicious. Anyway, I'll run you through the ingredients now. Okay, there's your recipe on the screen, imperial and in metric. These are the ingredients. Closer to you, this is for the frangipan, the almond sponge. There's butter, almond sponge, sugar and eggs. For the pastry, flour, icing sugar, butter and 1 egg. Those are pears, just in case you didn't realise, and that is apricot jam, which is going to make a lovely glaze. Make the pastry first, then you can get that in the fridge while you do the other things. So softened butter and icing sugar into your food processor, or if you're doing it by hand, just in a bowl, just start off nice and slow because the icing sugar will go everywhere. That's going to take a couple of minutes. I need to stop it, scrape down the sides. Effectively, we're looking to cream this together to make a nice homogenised mixture. When you're happy with that, pop your egg in. Don't worry about it if it looks a bit weird after the egg goes in. Cold eggs and butter, they don't tend to mix very well. It looks all split. Once you've put your flour in, it'll bring it back together. Time to get the flour in, mix that for another 30 seconds or so. Any bits of butter that have come on the side of the rim, which I've just noticed, pop that in there. That'll make it better, like that. But then, oh, don't. The insert is in there, never mind. So I just turn this onto a floured work surface, work it with your hands just so it comes together, wrap it and pop it in the fridge for at least an hour. You'll find it much easier to roll this later on if you do that. Peeling the pears, bowl of water is always a good idea, stops them from browning while you're waiting for the others to be peeled. I'm leaving them whole, I'm going to poach them whole, and what I've decided to do today, I was originally going to do a cranberry and almond tart. It was going to be very Christmassy for you, but all the supermarkets had sold out of cranberries. So I decided to do the old traditional classic pear and almond, but what I've done with my syrup, which you can see there, is I've got it made it very Christmassy. We've got lots of nice sort of spices like star anise and cloves, cinnamon. I've got some lemon peel in there. It's really lovely. And the stock syrup is basically just water and sugar boiled together. It's in the recipe at the beginning. The pears were already sort of almost at eatable stage of ripeness, so I don't need to boil them too long. But this is actually, if you've got really hard pears, this is very useful to do with those. So this is the almond sponge, or also known as Frangipan, to give it its Ponzi name. It's really nice, and also any gluten-free people, or if you know any gluten-frees, this is a great sponge just to do on its own without the pastry. Mix the butter and the sugar until it's creamed. You'll know it's creamed because it will become pale in colour. Takes a few minutes. You may need to scrape down the sides as you did with the pastry. There you go, that's looking a bit better. What we're going to do in a minute is to add the eggs. What I've done is I've put the eggs into a jug so I don't have to do them individually and risk dropping an egg into the mixture, mixing it with shell, which is very bad. This way it never looks good, I'm afraid. The eggs and the butter do not want to mix, they split. Once you add the almonds in, everything will be better again. Doesn't that look nice? You don't need to mix this for very long now, just really get it combined and it's ready to go. Check your pears are ready. All I do there is insert a knife into it. It goes in quite easily. I can feel that that's just about as cooked as I want it to be. I turn off the heat and I let them cool down in the syrup. If you've got really hard pears, this will take quite a while, and that's fine. But if they do feel that they're getting a bit mushy, get them out quickly, because otherwise they're going to fall apart, and you don't want that. To roll the pastry, I didn't really wait as long as I should have done. Pastry was still a little bit soft, really. That's useful. Start with it being round. You want to make a round shaped pastry. That gives you a head start. I'm being very delicate here. Turning as I go. If you get a little bit of pastry sticking to the work surface underneath, just rub that off with your hand. You have to just use plenty of flour in this case. I would have had to use as much flour if I'd have waited a bit longer. There you go. Get to around about 3mm and you're good to go. And then you just offer up your flan case. The one I'm using for this is a 10-inch, which is 26 centimetres. So the pastry needs to be big enough to overlap the flan case, which makes sense really. We're just about there now. And then again, to make a round pastry case, it helps if the piece of pastry you're trying to fold into it is also as round as you can be. So this is where I go around with a knife, leaving that overlap. Keep any trimmings. You may get some little holes that you just need to patch up, and those are perfect for that. I use the rolling pin to gather up the pastry. Makes it much easier to get it into your case. Would have been easier if I didn't have the case on this tray for some reason. I don't know why I did that, I never do that. And then very, very delicately let the pastry, let the gravity help. Get it right into the corner there. If you don't get into the corner, you're likely to get tears in the pastry as the butter melts while it's cooking, and you don't want that. This pastry case, because we're filling it with Frangipan, which isn't very liquid, it's a bit more forgiving. But if you're making a lemon tart, for instance, that'll be a disaster. So keep those extra trimmings. What I did there is something I don't normally do. Usually I leave the overlap, blind bake it, and then trim it off afterwards, but I thought I'd give this a go. It came out alright actually. What I'm doing there though, to allow for a bit of shrinkage, is I'm just raising it a couple of millimeters above the rim. And then what would also be a good idea is to pop that in the fridge again for at least half an hour to an hour before you pop it in the oven, just to let it set. And of course I didn't do that. So the blind baking, if you're going, what's the all about blind baking? It is a process of cooking it before you have the mixture that's going into it. And what I do there is use a bit of baking parchment and I fill it with baking beans. What you saw me doing as I was waffling there was I was just pricking the bottom with a fork. It's pretty obvious. I think that's called docking for some reason. I could be very wrong. Don't research that word, by the way. I think it means something very different. You've been warned. So my oven's preset to 170 degrees, baking beans going in. If you don't have those, why would you? You can use some dry rice, you can use some other dried beans. I've seen Heston Blumenthal use coins. You can afford it. So while that's blind baking, let's trim up and quarter the pears, and we're going to remove a bit of core in the middle. Just faffing for a moment there. There we go. And all I do to remove that bit of core is just nip that little bit there. And there we go. That is lovely. That's exactly how I want them. Get them all like that. Get your baking beans back into your jar. Try not to lose any. There's a little straggler came out there. We'll pick that up afterwards. That's had some time already. The edges are blind baking, setting, but the bottom not quite. So now I need to put it back in on its own without the parchment paper and the beans until I'm happy that it's completely set, which it is. That is the apricot jam, which I added a splash of water to, and I just got it warm in the microwave. Using it as a brush, it helps as a seal as well. And you can see there's a little paler bit there where I had to patch a hole that developed. I like to show you my mistakes. Hopefully it encourages you to have a go, and it doesn't really matter if your end result doesn't look beautiful, it's going to taste amazing. So don't completely fill your case to the top with the frangipane because it will rise, so allow some space for it to rise. What I'm doing is I'm just arranging the pears presentation side up, and you just want to push them in a little bit because you want the frangipane to rise up around them. The end result is going to look absolutely gorgeous, irresistible. I had some leftover pears. I sterilised the jar. I always keep a few old jam jars knocking around. I fill that up with a bit of the hot syrup that's in the fridge, and that will make a lovely snack one afternoon. Using an upturned bowl is a very useful tip for getting the edges of the flan case away. I left the bottom bit on, otherwise it would be a bit uneven on the bottom of the plate. You need to cool that down. Don't try to cut into this while it's warm, it'll be messy. Let it go cold in the fridge. Cut it up into however many portions you want and enjoy. Serve it warm or cold. Ice cream, cream, custard. Anyway, thank you very much for watching Uncle Matt's Cookery Lessons. Hope you enjoy this one. Give it a try, let me know how you get on, and please thumbs up and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out in the next video, which will be coming really soon. Bye, and happy Christmas to you.